So before you start doing the flan, make sure you set your oven. I usually set it up to 400 because I want my flan to be done in an hour. You can do it less than 400, but I usually do it for 400 so it can be done really quick. And next, I'm going to be using sugar, and I'm going to be getting a half a cup of sugar. Have a pan ready, you guys, because we're going to melt the sugar. So make sure you have a pan ready. Don't put the stove too high because you don't want your sugar to be completely burnt. We want it to be like a golden brown. Make sure you have a spoon there handy for you because you don't want your sugar to be just in one place. You need to move the sugar around, that way it will melt more faster. So as you can tell, my sugar is already melting, and you can see big old clumps of balls where the sugar is getting together. What you want to do is you're actually going to be, with your spoon, you're actually going to be smashing those little balls of sugar because you don't want the sugar to be a big old clumps of sugar, because then when all the rest of the sugar does melt, those big old clumps will still be there, and it would be really hard for them to dissolve. So this is the color you want your sugar to come out to be, like a caramel color. And you're actually going to be putting that sugar in the cake mold. Make sure when you put it on the cake mold, you get it all in the center and around. You can lift up the mold and try to see if the sugar falls to the sides, because you don't want your flan when it's cooking to be stuck to the sides. And now for the fun part, the flan. We are going to need 7 eggs, 3 condensed milks, and 1 evaporated milk, and vanilla. So what you're going to do is you're going to crack all 7 eggs in the blender, and all 3 condensed milks also in the blender, and the evaporated milk also in the blender. Everything that you see on there will be going in the blender, and you're going to be blending it. By the way, my eggs are actually straight out of a chicken, so they're what you call organic eggs. But on the sides of the eggs, it doesn't really matter. I've used large eggs, medium eggs from the store, and it's still the same, 7 eggs. You don't, not because they're small or too big, you're gonna be adding 1 more or 1 less. It's just 7 eggs. So since I have a really small blender, I actually put only the 7 eggs and the 2 condensed milk and half of the evaporated milk, because I'm not going to be able to fit all of it in that small blender. And yes, that vanilla is from Mexico. A friend of mine actually brought it from Cancun when she went to Cancun. And once you're done blending it, what you're going to do is obviously you're going to stop it and you're going to be pouring that in the pan where you put the melted sugar. And now I'm going to be going back to add the other ingredients that I couldn't fit in my blender. And now I'm going to be pouring that in my pan and just getting a spoon and just mixing it around. And before you stick it in the oven, I'm going to be putting the aluminum foil. I usually put 2. So it's just up to you. I usually just put 2 aluminum foils on top of my flan before I shove it in the oven. So this is the hard part. You're gonna find a bigger mold, bigger than the one that you put the flan in. So you're gonna find that big one and you're going to be adding water to it, but make sure you put the flan in there first. And the reason why I say it's really hard, it's actually because you're gonna need to add water because that's the way how the flan actually cooks in the oven. So when you add water, on my flan, I usually pour it all the way to half of the actual smaller mold because I don't want the water to lift up the smaller mold, because if it does, then your flan won't fully cook. And now for the waiting game. You're going to be sticking it in the oven. Be very careful. Don't burn your fingers. Always check the time that you put in your flan. If you put it at 400 like how I did, it should be done in 1 hour and 20 minutes. So yes, make sure you check the time before you stick it in there. So I went to check my flan like at 10:15, and when you check your flan, make sure you pull it fully out of the oven, and with a knife you're actually going to be sticking it inside the flan. When you stick out the knife and it's dry, then that means it's ready. If it's still a little watery and you can still see some of that milk, put it back in there. But mine came out dry, so since I didn't take off the aluminum foil, I wanted to make sure it was actually dry. So what I did is I basically pulled off the aluminum foil, which I hate doing that because I always burn my little fingers. But to be sure, I took off the aluminum foil and I made sure that my flan was actually dry. And once you're done, you're going to stick the flan in the refrigerator for 3 to 4 hours. If you want it to be done really fast, you can put it in the freezer for 2 hours. So once you let your flan sit in the refrigerator for a while and it's completely cold, you're actually going to be getting a knife and you're going to be cutting around the edges. Make sure you cut more towards the pan and not way into the flan, because you don't want your flan to come out deformed. And you're going to get a pizza sheet. I usually use a pizza sheet because for me, it's a lot more better, because since we did add the melted sugar on top, you don't know if the sugar is going to be going everywhere. So to make things a little more clean, I actually use the pizza sheet. Once you felt the flan fall into the actual plate, you're going to lift it up, and this is the finished look. This is how your flan is supposed to look. I hope my video was really helpful for you. Please do me a favor before you leave. Subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up for me. Stay tuned because I will be posting more recipes for y'all. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye.